Hello, everyone. Juxtaposition here. I hope everyone's enjoying their day and sipping coffee or their favorite adult beverage from this very handsome Juxtaposition mug. This mug can be used to contain your favorite Java, Joe, cappuccino, or espresso, or stiff cup of Joe. It can also hold Scotch whiskey, um, grappa, or ouzo, or whichever White Lightning adult beverage you prefer. All right, so today's video will be entitled Righteous Indignation. Righteous Indignation. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, Juxtaposition, as well as my paid subscribers to my Substack channel. That's primarily who I'm representing here. My paid patrons of my Juxtaposition educational channel. Um, no matter what anyone says, my channel is education based. Yes, it can be amusing. Yes, it can be entertaining. But as you know, most entertainment is free, given away by the Swiss bank clown jesters, people like Oliver Silverstein, Sean Silverstein Stone, people like Jeffrey Sachs, Anthony Napolitano, Lionel, also known as Michael LeBron, um, Tucker Carlson, Stupider Peters, Dr. Drew, Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, all free fake doctors who don't see patients. Dr. Jane Rubenstein, Dr. Jane Ruby. These are clowns in the circus. Maria Z. So if you're watching any of those idiotic clowns, including Jesse Ventura, Arnold Screw Your Freedom Schwarzenegger, Jesse the Steroid Body Ventura, then you've been hoodwinked. You fell for the potato in your tailpipe, along with Glenn Greenwald, Whitney Webb, Lex Friedman, Danny Bongino, Joe Rogan, and Alex Jones. Those are all pacification and control. And you will find all those people on YouTube because, see, YouTube, they take it all. They take all meaningless content providers. Now, it turns out they take me too, in small measures. Now, my channel is supremely shadow banned, meaning that if you were to try to search for me on YouTube, you probably wouldn't find me. All right. Even though at one time I think I had 400 videos on YouTube, I was banned for life and received 6 community strikes within about 5 months of my time at YouTube. Let me give you a little history lesson here. Um, there would be no YouTube were it not for Google, and there would be no Google were it not for private banking controlled by Switzerland. We're talking about Zurich, Switzerland, Basel, Switzerland, Zug, Switzerland, and we're talking about Geneva, Switzerland. That's where the concept of spying on your search to learn about predictive programming was emanated out of Geneva, Switzerland, and the House of Peace for NATO forces. The enemy wants to have full spectrum dominance, and one of the key ways is to understand how your pea-sized brain works. All right. And again, I'm speaking on behalf of my paid members. The free members are maybe amused and entertained by my content or by my voice tone, but they refuse to reach into their pockets and pay me. So I don't represent you, and I don't care what you think. And generally, I do not allow your comments on my videos because your comments are typically very juvenile. Today I got some juvenile comments over at YouTube. See, I was banned at YouTube. Um, I was denied all my appeals. I was never given a written explanation of why I was banned for life and had my IP address blocked. But I can guess they don't like truthful videos about banking, murders of Aaron Valente, murders of operatives within the chain of command, within the obelisk chain of command. They don't like that at YouTube because YouTube talks about what's not going on in our country. You know, like Trump, like the Strait of Hormuz, like communism, socialism, which doesn't exist in real life and has never existed in the entire history of the world. They talk about weather, climate change doesn't exist in real life. Weather modification and military operations got an airplane right over my head now. That exists. That's real. Smart dust, that exists. That's real. You don't see anything on YouTube about that. So what I'm telling you is that they cover what's not happening. And my channel is about what is happening, which is the destruction of the water temples known as the Hoover Dam and the Glen Canyon Dam, Lake Powell, and upstream dams to be soon put out of business. Is the death of the Colorado River as a form of alfalfa growing that's going the way of the dodo bird. All right, so my righteous indignation really stems to people who do not pay me money and like to pretend that they're my producer and director. I really despise people like that, and they need to refrain from posting their comments. I cannot prevent anyone from posting at YouTube because I was banned, and they disabled all of my abilities to communicate at YouTube. Now I can use another person's account to lurk, and I can see what's being done on my videos that they didn't delete. YouTube deleted over 250 of my videos, but they retained about 200 of them. And unbeknownst to me, nobody communicates with me on an internet platform, which is what Substack is, it's what YouTube is, it's what Rumble and BitChute are, it's what TikTok and Instagram are. They're all military intelligence platforms where every single keystroke, every word, every voice, every biometric marker is traced and tracked. And of course, they want you to have fingerprint and eyeball recognition to to further restrict your access to communicating on their system. It is their system. And their system was created by Kleiner Perkins and Sequoia Capital. And they hatched on lucky number 13, Masonic 13, Unity Monks Masons, September 4th, 1999. Sequoia Capital and Kleiner Perkins jointly created Google on Sand Hill Road at 2800 Sand Hill Road and 2750 Sand Hill Road. Yes, they share the same parking lot. You could park your car and walk into Kleiner Perkins, reverse direction, walk across the parking lot, 2800 Sand Hill Road, and go in and ask for Doug Leone. He financed Samuel Bankman Fried. But he also created Apple and Steve Jobs, and he created Genentech, and he created Sergey Brin and Larry Page at Google, who in the garage of Stanley Wojcicki with the daughters, Ann Wojcicki and Susan Wojcicki, who became the CEO of YouTube before she died of turbo cancer. In other words, they were plugged in men with not a penny to their name, and it took billionaire bankers to create Google. That was done on September 4th, 1998. Then a couple of years later, on February 14th, 2005, so, approximately 6.5 years later, they created YouTube, which became a subsidiary of Google, YouTube, and they appointed Susan Wojcicki, who is the eldest daughter of Stanley Wojcicki, who owns the garage on Margarita Avenue. And Margarita Avenue is where the infamous garage where Google was created by Sergey Brin and Larry Page in a garage that belonged to Stanley Wojcicki, who is the department head of the physics department at Stanford and works for the Department of Energy in charge of the linear accelerator on Sand Hill Road. Okay. So he's a department head and he works for DOA. He's getting two paychecks. And he's also going to get some love because Kleiner Perkins and Sequoia Capital are going to give him some stock in this company called Google, which is going to be focusing on spying on your browsing history. Then we created YouTube, where we put censored and deleted and scripted content, and today artificial intelligence generated content, which began in 2005 on February 14th. Then, as time went on and there were more military divisions to be created by Google, they created a parent company known as Alphabet, Alphabet Incorporated, Alphabet Inc. That was hatched on October 2nd, 2015, 11 years ago. 11 years ago, we created this monstrosity known as Alphabet. Now, you should know that Alphabet not only does it own Google LLC, which, as you know, is about your browsing history, advertising, and other digital services, including financial services. And then, of course, YouTube, which is their video sharing platform, but they don't really share. They shadow ban and or they delete other people's content, which they claim ownership to. When you post a video on YouTube, you lose control of that video. That video belongs 100% to YouTube. That's theirs. And you have a privilege to log on to your website and look at your video and to respond to viewer comments unless you receive a community strike, in which case your privileges are revoked, suspended, revoked, and or your video is deleted without prior notice. They also own Alphabet owns Android, which is a mobile operating system used in billions of devices to surveil, trace, track, and target you. Android. Those are called smartphones. Then they have Waze, which is navigation and traffic, so they can surveil you whilst you travel around. They have a company called DoubleClick, digital advertising technology. They have Nest, which is about smart home devices. Nest? In other words, they want to infiltrate your Nest. Well, they've succeeded. They have Fitbit, which is for clueless people who think that wearing a Fitbit makes you healthy. It does not. It actually makes you unhealthy. It is a wearable fitness tracker of your heart rate and other telemetry health data. Then they have Mandiant, which is a cybersecurity firm. That's all you want to do is hire Google to surveil your house 24/7. They have DeepMind, which is AI research and development. Waymo, which is autonomous driverless vehicle technology. They have Verify, which talks about health technology and research. Alphabet owns Wing, which is drone delivery services. I guess you could say DoorDash could fall under that category. Owned by Alphabet. This is Eric Schmidt. He is the CEO. He lives right below the murder scene of Abigail Folger and Sharon Tate. There's a reason why Eric Schmidt is put right below a murder scene from 1969, because they're reminding Eric Schmidt that they could have a murder scene on his property too, because they did it 2 blocks away, so they certainly can do his house. They have SpaceX. They are invested in SpaceX, which is rocket and space technology. They have a 5% interest in SpaceX. It's not just about Elon Musk. It's about Alphabet too. They have Anthropic, which is an AI research and development. They have 14% of that. They have Calico Life Extension and Longevity Research. They own Google Fiber, high-speed internet service, fiber optics. They have that's sending light over wires, fiber. They have GV, which is Google Ventures. They invest in companies like Facebook and Control Labs to create Meta. Google was a beneficiary of the Meta merger of Control Labs to Facebook, and it turns out that Google / Alphabet cleaned up on that at the expense of Aaron Valente, who was murdered during the culmination of that transaction. They have Prestige LLC, which is health and wellness services. I wouldn't advise using it. They have isomorphic laboratories, AI, and machine learning research. That just gives you a little hint. They also own life science companies, which I'm not going to go into. So they're in the pharmacy business, life science business, human augmentation business, trace track, and targeting surveillance business. But their biggest asset, of course, is spying on your browsing search using Google, and of course, mind controlling you through the poppycock, balderdash, and mendacity videos that you can find on YouTube. And you can get clueless clowns posting on the videos, ridiculous comments that they have no backup for. They always make outrageous remarks and provide zero evidence to back up what they say. That's typical of the person who spends too much time on YouTube. All right. So anyway, I'm just expressing today my righteous indignation. I find my motivation from many sources. I prefer to find my motivation from artistic things like music and Chopin and Mozart and or poetry and or art renderings. But sometimes I get my motivation from sheer anger and righteous indignation. This is not self-righteous indignation. This is righteous indignation. And I consider this offensive weapon I'm offended by Switzerland. I'm offended by people who apologize for Swiss bank authority. I am offended by people who post Trump videos to gaslight people when Donald Trump is a zero. He has an empty set. He has no authority to replace toilet paper. Instead of being concerned about the reflection pond in Washington, D.C., he should be exploding and demoing the obelisk that stands in the mirror image of the reflection pond. Don't you get it? The obelisk, it's like 800 feet tall, is a chain of command for Switzerland. Tear that thing down and burn the 13 stripe flag. You should be burning your 13 stripe flag with its 50 pentagram stars. Burn that thing. You could use it as a grease rag in your garage or burn it. One of the two, grease rag or incinerate it. Then you need to demo the obelisk in Washington, D.C. And while you're at it, you need to demo the Transamerica Pyramid and get rid of the Coy Tower and get rid of the obelisk that stands in Union Square in San Francisco and keep on going. You got to get rid of Hollywood Forever Cemetery's obelisk and the one at Griffith Park, and most definitely need to get rid of the mini-me obelisk on Paul Pelosi and Nancy Pelosi's driveway at number 2 Zinfandel Way in St. Helena, Napa Valley. If you don't believe me, Google it, check it out, get the street view, look right through their steel gate. You'll see an obelisk. That's the first thing they see when Paul Pelosi's Maserati is redelivered to that home after they repair it. I think he almost totaled his car, crashed into a parked car. Sounds like drinking and driving to me, but he's 86 years old, so maybe it's senile dementia. Anyway, I want you to know that the music that the Beatles performed was not written by them. Songs like Imagine, John Lennon, that's a New World Order song. Imagine. John Lennon didn't write it. Let It Be, Let It Be. Mother Mary Comes to Me. She could get hit with a baseball bat if she gets too close. Anyway, Let It Be. Paul McCartney didn't write that song. Helter Skelter. The Beatles didn't write that song. Love Is All You Need. All You Need Is Love. Love Is All You Need. They didn't write that song. That's a pacification and control song, right? Chicago, Columbia Records, Chicago, Transit Authority. They didn't write Dialogue. Jimi Hendrix didn't write Purple Haze. Grace Slick did not write White Rabbit, right? Jimi Hendrix, Fire, Foxy Lady, he didn't write those songs. All Along the Watchtower, what do you think that means? That's military security of your strategic hamlet. Along the perimeter, the watchtowers along the perimeter, all along the watchtower. You think Jimi Hendrix wrote that song? I don't think so. All right. And Victor Davis Hanson, Ann Heche, they do their psyops in Fresno County. Victor Davis Hanson, a pseudo military historian, clueless to the core. He doesn't know anything about smart dust, doesn't know anything about CRISPR therapeutics, doesn't know anything about human augmentation. He's a clueless clown who gets paid a preposterous amount of money to be a fellow at the Hoover Institute, where he got his PhD in poppycock. And Victor Davis Hanson has a raisin farm in Selma on Highway 99, which comports to 666, the mark of the beast. And he lives in Palo Alto on the Stanford campus because he gets a house there and he can entertain girlfriends there and not see his wife. All right, it's Victor Davis Hanson of the Hoover Institute, a complete, phony, fake, knowledgeable person. He's not wise and he's not smart and he's to be ignored. All right, and he's following his orders along the obelisk, all along the watchtower, just like Ann Heche did. Ann Heche had her breakup bender weekend on Highway 33, which is 20 miles away from Victor Davis Hanson, is Highway 23. He's on 99, but the next highway to the west is 33, Highway 5, and then Highway 33 that crosses over. And Ann Heche did her psyops by the Harris Ranch in Fresno County. And the Navy Air Station is partly in Fresno County. That's called Lemoore Naval Air Station, just below Dr. Victor Davis Hanson. But Dr. Victor Davis Hanson is as credible as Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, Dr. Drew, Dr. Jane Rubenstein. In other words, they don't see patients and they don't know what they're talking about. Victor Hansen does not see patients. He doesn't know anything. He does need to go to Zug, Switzerland. He needs to get his butt over to Zurich and check out the secret bank accounts, which they will not allow him to see. Anyway, Helter Skelter was not written by the Beatles, and Chaos was not conceived by Tom O'Neill, who is a gay waiter from West Hollywood who doesn't got a clue about who Lino LaBianca is, who Peter Smaldino is, who Peter DeSantis is, who Lino's older sisters are. He doesn't know who Roy Norwood is, the controller for Gateway Markets, never interviewed him. He does not know anything about Sharon Tate. He knows less about Abigail Folger. And you're going to read a book about CIA, the 1960s, and Charlie Manson. He doesn't know anything about Charlie Manson. Nothing. He knows less than nothing. And Vincent Bugliosi knows less than nothing. Charlie Manson doesn't know anything about Charlie Manson either. And he went and got coffee and donuts for the people who were running the trial, the murder trial, run by Charlie. Charles Older was the judge. Charlie Manson was one of the defendants. Charlie Watson was another defendant, right? Charlie Company went in and killed everybody at My Lai. Charlie was the communist Chinese. Remember them? Charlie? You called them Charlie? And then we had Charlie Company, who was NATO forces. Charlie Company looking for Charlie. Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. How many Charlies do you need in a story? But I'm telling you that Vincent Bugliosi doesn't know anything about an O'Charlie, and neither does Charlie Older. He only knows about he was a Flying Tiger pilot flying for China, the Republic of China, before Pearl Harbor. The judge that sentenced Charlie Manson to the gas chamber was flying for communist China before Pearl Harbor. Wake up, people. Wake up, little Susie. Wake up. Please, are you offended by my broadcast? If you're on YouTube, I really don't care. Get off my show. Get off. Either become a paid member or get lost and unsubscribe. That's my message for today. I'm so full of righteous indignation, I cannot help myself. Do like and share my videos because I am heavily shadow banned. Heavily, meaning that when I started at YouTube, I typically had between 3,000 and 5,000 views per excellent video, which typically were 20 to 30 minutes long. Today, I post a 20 to 30 minute video and I get typically 60 to 200 views. 60 to 200 views. So they've got 97% reduction in my exposure at YouTube. And remember, I'm not posting at YouTube. I'm banned. The only reason my videos are showing up there is that Substack, which is my primary channel, they sign an affiliation agreement with YouTube without my consent or knowledge. And they share my juxtaposition videos over at YouTube. Now, YouTube peppers my videos with adverts, but you'll never find it because guess what? It's under a name that I'm not going to tell you what name it's under, but it has nothing to do with juxtaposition. You do know I had to sneak through the fence line multiple times over YouTube once they had blocked my IP address, but they completely scorched me. So again, I have nothing to do with Google, Alphabet, or YouTube. Thanks for listening, and do look into getting one of these coffee cups, if not becoming a paid member on a regular basis, like a proper citizen of anarchy. That's the solution to success. The path of the righteous man is a rough gravel road of anarchy. That is the truthful path. The improper path is the Agenda 2030 United Nations and human augmentation, CRISPR therapeutics, tethered to the cloud 24/7, surveillance, prisoner planet. That is the road of compliance, techno-enslavement. That's the road for a slave and a detention prisoner of a FEMA, Donald Trump Freedom City, also known as California Forever or Kamala Harris Liberty City. Take care. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.